Why do so many millions of Muslims hate the USA?
Is there a Muslim problem?
Until
Look what's happening.
moderate Muslims.
The voices of moderate Muslims.
Why aren't any
the condemnation from the Muslim community on this? But
I mean, a standard.
The word responsibility comes to mind.
It just comes to mind.
It didn't feel like a big deal to be Muslim, to be from a different country.
I felt like I didn't want to go anywhere. I felt genuinely scared.
Just 2 years ago, I kind of fully came out as a Muslim publicly. For 12 years, I hid my identity.
When Donald Trump said he would close down immigration of all Muslims to the United States, that, for lack of better words, just hurt my feelings.
Every Muslim American is living proof that they can coexist.
You know, here I am, a Muslim who's being myself. You're not scared for your life.
This is the intensified moment. Either America pulls together or it all falls apart.
A Putnam County man is facing a slew of hate crime charges.
Pushed him onto the tracks as a
punches her so hard, by the time she hits the pavement, she is already unconscious.
I kill Muslims. That's what attacker Piro Kolvani said.
You took my best friend away from me.
There's something happening in this country and around the world, and it isn't new. When I was 11 years old, I watched the Twin Towers come down from across the Hudson in New Jersey. That day, like it did for countless Muslim Americans, changed my life forever. There was a seismic shift in how Muslims were perceived in the United States. And recently, things have only gotten worse. Once relegated to the shadows of subtle racism, Islamophobia has taken center stage in the campaign for the presidency of the United States. So I sat down with several other Americans who identify as Muslim to try to understand, from a perspective outside my own, what life is like for Muslim Americans today.
There's this funny story where I was putting up this flag, this memory recalled in my mind where right after 9/11, my father went out and bought a bunch of flags and put them in his yard and put them in our house and in our garage and our mailbox, and they were all over our house. And thinking back on that moment, I saw it as an act of both solidarity as well as an act of protection. And it was very interesting to see my dad kind of protecting his family through his show of Americana. I think that there's this collective fear from Muslims that whenever there's any sort of attack, whether it be a stabbing or a shooting or a bombing, you go through this moment of privately hoping and wishing that that person is not kind of someone that you could see yourself in. I think at the end of the day, you do have to be you have to be even better than you would be if you weren't a Muslim, in my opinion. I think you actually have to go the extra mile, and you have to be nicer, and you have to be funnier, and you have to be kinder, and you have to be gentler, and you really have to try even harder, because there are opinions ingrained in our society, and all you can do is prove them wrong.
I felt like I was bullied a lot, not just because I was Muslim, also because I was African, but I felt like they used that more of an excuse than anything else. This guy just wanted to beat me up. He was swinging his necklace, his Jesus Christ necklace, and he said, "You want to fight me, bro? And you want to fight me, bro?" And I'm like, "No," and I started running off. Another guy was just making remarks about me, anti-religious remarks. Fuck you, Muslim, or stupid Afghan, things like that. The guy who sent me death threats was with this profile said that our kind should go back, that my kind should go back to where we came from. You goat fuckers, you child rapers, and things like that. And I felt like I wanted to change my name, change my identity, pretend to be somebody else. And I tried doing that for a while. And then I realized that I can't hide, I can't pretend to be this person I don't want to be, because if I do that, the hate is just going to keep spewing. Nothing's ever going to get solved. I feel like I have to be out there, not just for myself, but for other people.
My children, live in a moment in time where Muslims have been villainized. It's my responsibility and theirs to know the world they live in, but also to be a part of it. These are my kids. This is Ramzi and Adam. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 15. Ramzi was in 4th grade, and he kept complaining about his teacher. He kept telling me, "Mom, my teacher keeps pointing me out in class. I said, how do you mean? He's like, well, you know, she asks me questions like, for example, his teacher said to him once, I'm Jewish and I celebrate Hanukkah. And he said that she nudged his chair and said, right, Ramsey? So I said, you know what, Adam, you know what, Ramsey, maybe she just thinks that you know these things. I honestly wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want my son to see himself as, you know, being picked on or anything. So I sat my son down at fourth grade, and I said to him, Ramsey, and he looked at me. I said, Ramsey, I said, you're Palestinian, you are a male, and you're Muslim in this country, okay? And I tried as hard as I could, as a mother, as a Palestinian mother, to explain what it meant to be Palestinian in this society, in you know, American society. What it meant to be Muslim, right? What it meant to be constantly under suspicion. And it was very difficult to make you know, he's a fourth grader. How do you make a fourth grader understand that? But I was able to get through, and I remember his eyes just widening and listening to me. And finally, my final thing was, I said, listen, Ramsey, I said, cross all your T's and dot all your I's, because there's going to be people who are going to sink you. You know how a ship bobs on water? I said to him, they're going to want to sink you, Ramsey.
The fact that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that the ink of a scholar is worth more than the blood of a martyr speaks to volumes for me, and that's also why I'm a writer. For me, as someone who's Japanese American, I used to be so thankful that I didn't live in the 1940s, that I wasn't, you know, afraid to be called a Jap, or I wasn't afraid of, you know, being taunted by my neighbors, or being rounded up the next day and sent to an internment camp. But now when I see overwhelming support of, you know, Trump's proposal to have Muslim IDs and a Muslim database, and even still to this day, Muslims are being under surveillance constantly. There's issues of Muslims who are being detained indefinitely without due process. So right now it's a really scary time of, you know, living as a Muslim, and seeing people like Donald Trump being so open about these ideas, and then now like a huge support from their supporters. It's really scary to see where the future's gonna lie ahead. What I'm doing when I'm writing, the information I'm getting out there, and the stories I'm sharing, it's much more impactful than the violence that we see today.
I really think of myself as an American first. I don't think that being a Muslim necessarily means that I'm not American or less American in any way. Every day in the morning I put a hijab on my head and I make this conscious decision to let other people know that I'm Muslim. And it's never a situation with me where someone needs to start talking with me in order to find out what my religious beliefs are. You know, just by looking at me as I walk down the street or from across the room, people know I'm Muslim, and that makes it harder for me because people can kind of impose their own views of what they think, of who they think I am, without even having to talk to me. People don't need to, will never engage in a conversation with me to actually know what my thoughts are, or even to understand that my identity is very complex. What I try to do is just, you know, every day wake up, wear my hijab, go outside, in hopes that someone who misunderstands Islam will stop me and ask me and engage me in conversation. America is a multicultural, multi-religious community where people can, you know, can exist side by side, and I think the best way to combat all of the anti-Muslim rhetoric is through education.
I did wear hijab for 2.5 years. I started the second semester of my junior year in high school, and that was in Saudi Arabia. I graduated from high school and I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, straight from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, all alone. It was different, for sure. It was different in the sense that I definitely felt the eyes, you know? And it wasn't necessarily hatred or anger, or any of that. It was more of just, I felt this overbearing responsibility to represent Islam. And I took it as kind of, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a heavy thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, you know? I took it my first year in college as like, well, you know what? I'm gonna use this to show people that Muslim women, you know, can be cool. You know what I mean? Like, Muslims are just like you, and you're like us, and we're all just trying to, you know, live our lives. So I got my eyebrow pierced. And I would do my hijab in like different styles, and I was like, you know, killing the fashion, like, so I was making a statement. And then that was actually fun for me because I typically like to challenge what people think. But then it got to a point where it's college, I don't even know myself, I'm trying to figure out who I am. Meanwhile, the whole world thinks they know me because I wear hijab, and they think that they have me, you know, like, oh, I got you covered because I already know, like, you wear hijab, you're Muslim, so you don't do this, 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 or that. And that's basically all there is to you. I didn't want that to be, you know, tied in with any kind of like stigmas about Islam, or like, I didn't want me to be representing an entire religion when I was just trying to find out who me was, basically. And I took it off, and my life did change after that. A lot of Muslims feel like they don't have the opportunity to fully be themselves because of this, you know, stigma of being Muslim, because of the, you know, added responsibility of like upright behavior and patriotism and condemning violent acts stuff. But really, you know, if I'm true to myself, I feel like that's me teaching about Islam.
Why does my religion have to clash with being American? I was raised here, I happen to be Muslim. It's really hard to feel proud to live here after hearing these types of things, but at the same time, I can't even say that I'm not proud to be American, because where I moved from, you know, I wouldn't have nearly had as many opportunities as I did now that I'm here. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair, I wouldn't have this office, I wouldn't be able to be a DJ, I wouldn't be able to write freely, I wouldn't be able to do all these things. So yeah, I'm proud to be here and I'm lucky to be here. It's the same thing. If we have that mentality towards ISIS saying, you know, these people define a religion, if I say a few crazy people in America define America, then I'm doing the same thing. Of course, being a female in any industry is a disadvantage. You have to work twice as hard and prove yourself twice as much as anyone else, but I think the brown factor has actually been a good thing for me, because people are like, oh wow, like so many people show me support, like, oh, you're Pakistani, we're so like proud of you for breaking out of your doctor, lawyer, engineer shell and doing something different, you know? So it's actually been really positive, and I'm really grateful for all the support I've gotten, more than I ever thought I would get, especially from Pakistani people and like Muslim people or brown people. It's honestly been overwhelming.